Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad you're here this morning. Got a great show lined up. We'll get started our weather. Brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin Road and Highway 77. High today, 59, low 51, so it's going to be about the same temperature all day long. Water temperature still remains around 60, 61 degrees. It's been bouncing back and forth right there. River readings, talk about the river readings now. Apalachicola is going down, but it's still high. It's right under 12 foot, reading 11.5 this morning, and you see it's not going to drop anymore for the next 3 or 4 days. It's going to stay around 11.5 foot, so it's going to be high water for the weekend. The Choctahatchee-Caryville has the same momentum there. It's just level out. It's going to stay that way. It's reading a 9.1, and just not a lot of activity. It's just going to stay level right there. So that's it. And our tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery, right here on 23rd Street. Their motto is "When Carrying Counts." Good folks over there. Looking at March the 5th tides on a Wednesday. We're getting a little bit of activity, better than the last couple of days. We're going to see a high tide right here in the middle of the day, 11:45. And then a low tide tonight at 10:11. And we're only talking about a 0.8 foot range right there. Marine forecast today is going to be northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Okay? Once a week, we like to get our blue water outrigger report and call Captain Blair Morgan down on St. Joe Bay and see what's going on down in that area. Good morning, Blair.
Good morning, Winston. How are you today?
I'm doing well. We're going to have sort of a different report this morning. We always talk ahead of time. You're always talking about what's going on in St. Joe Bay, but there's some other things going on too. So tell us what's going on.
Well, you and I were talking before the show, but this weather's been really weird this year, and there's not a whole lot of locals doing any fishing here. But seems like a lot of the local guides here, they're going to Venice, Louisiana, over there catching yellowfin tuna. And, they're going out, in a day's time catching over 1,000 pounds of tuna. They're just going crazy over there.
Wow.
And, of course, when you fish all year, you like to do a little fishing yourself. So now's a good time to be doing that. And a lot of people going over there. And I was fortunate enough, they brought me a bunch of tuna steaks back the other day. So
okay, that's a good situation right there. So locally, it's real slow locally right now.
Yeah, it's real slow, Winston. What people don't realize is we've got on the Apalachicola River. You said it's still high.
Yeah.
And what's causing that is all that snow and ice and stuff they had up around Atlanta and all that. It's running down the river, and the water temperature is extremely cold for this time of year. And of course, that runs out in the Apalachicola Bay, and it runs in the Intercoastal Waterway, which comes out into St. Joe Bay, and it's just got everything kind of dormant right now. The water's so cold, so fish just really aren't that active. You can still get sheephead around the ridge pilings and some redfish, trout up the creeks and whatnot where the water's a little bit warmer.
That's an interesting observation, Blair. You're talking about all that ice and all. It's been extremely hard winter for everybody up north and North Georgia and all, and a lot of people don't think about it. That's just cold water, and it's really not going to warm up that much coming this distance. So that will have an effect on us this spring.
Yeah, the sun can only warm up so much, but when you got that cold water, as a matter of fact, they said that in Venice, you have to run about 20 miles down the Mississippi River to get to the Gulf. And they said every morning you can't see for the fog. But the water temperature is in the 30s. It's like 37 degrees or something over there.
That's over Mississippi River. Is that cold, huh?
Yeah,
wow.
And that's how all that stuff coming from up north. But then when you get down to the Gulf, the water temperature, it'd be in the 60s. So that's how big a difference it is.
Well, that's interesting. That's a good observation, Blair. Good job.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate that. We're going to close out now. Maybe next week we'll have some local reports on that.
Yeah, and of course turkey season will be opening here in a week or two.
Yes, sir. It's opening up this Saturday morning. Be a bunch of kids out this weekend.
That's right.
All right, man. Good talking to you.
Same here.
All right, we'll see you. Captain Blair Morgan, Blue Water Outrigger. Let's take our first break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. So here we got Rick Corley.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rick. It was funny. I'm talking to Blair on the phone, you know, and so it just has me on there on the right. Rick just reaches up, picks up the book, and starts thumbing through it, and I find myself doing the same thing.
Oh yeah, that's a neat book, folks. If you don't have a copy of it, you ought to get a copy of it. It's got a lot of history in it, and a lot of the people that I grew up with.
Well, what's fascinating, one of my favorite boats in there, all of them, those early boats, and one of them called the Princess, and Robert Studebaker built that, named after his little daughter because that was his little princess. And you actually got to get on that boat.
Yes, I did. Yeah, when I was about 10 years old.
Yeah.
With Captain Charlie S. Anderson, I sure did.
Yeah, that's not many of us left can say something like that. They had a part of that history going way back on those original wooden boats there. So.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that, but you have.
Nah, it's all right.
That's a storied past to be able to have sailed on the Princess because that was a cool boat.
Yes, it was.
Okay, speaking of boats now, we're going to have a video come up after on the next break, but just real briefly, we've had some extremely cold weather, so just real brief, what should people be looking for with this cold weather, and we're coming back out of the cold season on boats?
Well, it's time if you're going to use the boat. If it's been up on the hill, I hope you made sure the water stayed out of it, because if you get water in a boat, especially fiberglass and some of the others, it can create a problem if it freezes and then thaws and freezes. And with the weather we've had, that's a possibility. Now, up north, they're used to dealing with that. That's the reason you see boats put in barns and shrink wrapped and all that type of thing. But we don't normally have that cold of weather here, so it can create some problems. You may find, so check your bilges, check your boat very carefully after this cold winter, because you could have some of that has happened and may have some delamination in your fiberglass because of it or something. If there's moisture in the fiberglass laminates, it freezes.
How will it show up? Will it just have a little bit of a blister?
You can have a blister, or when you're walking on a deck, you hear it kind of crackle.
Yeah.
And that's telling you that you've got some delamination in there where the ice expanded and then,
Yeah.
So
those early boats, those early fiberglass boats they built, when they built them out of had a wood, that's when it's all composite now. But I can remember some of those early boats. I always thought I was getting a good buy, but I wouldn't buy them because when I walked on them, it just had a little bit of softness in there.
Yeah,
I know that don't feel right.
No, no, and it didn't right. That's the thing. But that's the biggest thing, and it's the time of the year we've just. It always 1st of March business jumps up real well.
Yeah.
In fact, my young apprentice there, that he's going full bore right now himself. Of course, he just became papa of two girls. He had twins, and he's done well. Yeah.
He's having to work a little bit harder now, huh?
Yeah, he's got a reason to go now. He ain't got any choice.
All right.
But
all right, look, we're going to take a quick break, come back and set up this video for you. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So here with Captain Rick Corley, Panhandle Outdoors boating expert. And if you have any questions, on this video, we're going to have his number at the end of it. If you ever have a question on a boat, call Rick up. He'd be glad to help you on it. But on this video, Jeff, our own Jeff Peck, shot it, got in the boat with you, shot it a while back, but the problem is still there. So let's talk about what this video is going to show.
Well, this video is 9 years old, but and some of the boats have been removed, but there's new ones out there. And what you have is, we don't have any kind of controls. It's kind of willy-nilly, haphazard. Whatever people want to do, they do. And we have people here that come down, don't want to pay slip rent, or can't find a slip, which, that's a little bit of a problem too. But they'll anchor the boat, and of course, instead of anchoring it properly, some of these boats may be anchored with 2 concrete blocks. I mean, it's that ridiculous.
Hopefully there's not a lot of body on one of those concrete blocks.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is, and this is a good video. It takes the scene all through the base system and all, and it's still a problem.
It still applies.
Yeah,
it's relative today. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to take a look at this video, then we'll come back and talk a little bit about it. So Jeff, let's go ahead and roll this.
That boat is properly moored. And that is a mooring facility here in Bay Point. And later on, I'll show you exactly what the drawing is on that as to being the proper way to make a mooring. that's one of the ways that the county and the state or whoever could finance the controls that make the harbor a more organized and better used facility. Right now, it's so haphazard. It's catch can, and the bad part is, with no rules, everybody's doing their own thing. Some of them are right, such as that boat was, and then there are other boats that are just absolutely improperly anchored, and they're going to be a problem because they're going to be left out there to their own devices and sink. And we wind up having to pay for that. From a standpoint, the way it works is you have to get the boat declared a derelict, then you have to get it up, then you have to apply to the state to be reimbursed. Well, they've had so much money taken out of the system over the last 6 hurricanes, there's really no money in those coffers to pay for it. And the real bad thing is everything in that boat in the way of fuel, oil in the engine, the contents of the holding tank, all of that winds up in our bay. And it's just putting undue stress on the bay that could be avoided with some decent, organized controls. And it's okay to anchor here, but they need to be some orderly fashion to it and require that they have insurance on the boat. So if something does happen, then there's money to recover the boat, get it out. Because it costs you $200 to $250 a linear foot, and in some cases it'd go to $300 a foot to get that boat removed if it sinks. What I'm here to try to do is to make people aware that we have a problem, and it's growing, and it's going to grow rapidly as we lose marinas, as they fill up, and as we lose shipyards and things of that nature. People are going to have to anchor out, and we're going to have less maintenance done on the boats. And if there's not some way to control it, we're going to wind up killing the goose that lays the golden egg. We got one of the prettiest inland bays anywhere in the world. That's a 40-something foot boat called the Wave Guy. That's one that's in the state park, and that's been there since the last hurricane. And there's 2 other boats that are anchored here, and you can tell by looking at this one that it's not going to be long before it'll become a derelict because the hull has got a lot of growth on the bottom. That buoy is anchored over a wreck of a 108-foot schooner that sat in this bay for 2 years. And 18 months before it sank, I told several of acquaintances around, I said, that boat's going to sit there, and left to its own devices, it's eventually going to sink. Nobody's doing anything about it. And sure enough, the predictions I had were correct, and it sunk there in 25 feet of water. It's lucky it's not a hazard to navigation, but all of the contents that were in its fuel tank, and it had an auxiliary engine, and all of the oil that was in the engines had to go out in this bay. And it's now here, and this one is turned into a pretty decent little dive spot in the bay. But we were very, very lucky that we weren't in the way or anything, and so it's left, but that's a wreck. That's what that WR3A on the buoy is it's a buoy for marking the wreck of that schooner. There's a cruiser that has been sunk for several months right here in Smack Bayou. There's one that's been there that's sunk for quite some time. As you can see, it's been there a long time. And this is in a pristine area called Smack Bayou. Really a beautiful place. It's a great place to come on the weekends for boaters, but as you can see, it's being ruined by irresponsible boaters. This is Masalina Bayou, and as you can see, there's quite a number of boats anchored out. There's no real grid or rhyme or reason to the way they're anchored because some of them are closer to each other than they really should be. You notice that one was on the hill, and you've got
several that are very close to the bridge, so that in the event of a real serious blow, it could wind up getting into that bridge. There should be some a schematic as to where people anchor in these boats. They're anchored in such a way that if the wind comes from the wrong direction at the right time, they could even tangle up with each other. There's no planning to it. It's just haphazard. It's whatever they think they can get. And that's part of the problem. We got one boat here anchored by the stern, which is kind of a strange thing to do. The little blue and white one right there with the sails, and you can tell by the sails that boat hasn't been used in quite some time, and the condition of the hull. It looks like that actually it's just tangled up on the rudder on another anchor buoy, or it would already be loose on the heel. And this is some of the problems that I'm seeing that alarm me as to we need to do something in the community, or we're going to have a whole bunch of these high and dry. As you can see, there's a lot of boats anchored out, and here's one with the mast down, which means he's not using the boat hardly at all. And there's the houseboat that's up on the beach. There's several older boats here that I'm sure are going to wind up just sitting. You've got several up in here in the very end of the slough here. They have no schematic to the way they're anchored. Some are properly anchored, some are just, we hope it'll stay put. The potential for a problem is here. And some of these people do not live in Panama City. They live in another state even. And they just leave their boats here. The other is there's some of these boats that are being lived on, and I wonder how often they're pumping their holding tank, or is it really going into a holding tank? Nobody's checking, nobody knows. And that's a serious problem. This is not going to get better, it's going to get worse, unless we do something and do something soon. And by that I mean a good harbor master and some ordinances that allow anchoring, but that have some codes as to what you have to do to be properly anchored and where. Somebody laying out a good grid work where they're not haphazard and in everybody's way and everything else. I would love to take a state official and bring them out here and show you, or show them, and the rest of Bay County, what we've got developing. And it's because people are losing places to dock their boats. There's no rules or regulations about anchoring or about insuring vessels or anything of that nature. And we wind up paying the price for people that are not responsible enough to insure their vessels or can't afford to. Of course, if you can't afford to insure it, you really can't afford the boat, because the insurance usually doesn't cost more than maybe a couple of fuel tanks full. But from that standpoint, you can wind up paying a big bill. If you have any questions, call 850-784-9939 and ask for Captain Rick Corley.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, let's look at our fishing game forecast today, brought to us by Mark Cowart of Edgewater Beach Realty at 832-6000. Our times this morning from 3:14 to 5:14. And this evening, you're looking at 3:39 to 5:39. Two excellent times right there. This afternoon will be good. Now remember, daylight saving time rolling around this weekend, this Sunday. So be aware of that. It gives us a little bit of, we're going to spring forward. We're going to have a little bit more time in the afternoon to do some things and all. All right, now I got this email. The folks over in Tefunex Springs in Walton County are having a Walton County Antique Day Saturday, March the 8th. And they're going to have tractor pulls and kiddie tractor pulls, and sponsored by the Chattooga Cruisers and Walton County Heritage. That is going to be really nice. They have a lot of history up there in Walton County, up at the Phoenix Springs, right there at the Walton County Fairgrounds. You get a chance, run over there Saturday. If I'm in that neck of the woods, I'm going to try to run by. That's some cool stuff, looking at that history. All right, Rick, let's talk about that. We've got a couple minutes left about that video, and like I say, it's still appropriate today.
Yes, it is. I made that with Jeff in 2005 when I had my boat. And I had noticed and decided to go out and try to make people a little bit aware. Everybody thought I was trying to get a job, and that was not it. I've got a job. I'm a marine surveyor. But I love this bay, and I love being out on the water. And I like people to be responsible for their actions and what they're doing. And I tried to make all of the elected officials at the time aware, the state, county, and city. And, of course, it seemed to have fell on deaf ears because boats don't vote. The people vote.
So you sent it to all, county commissioners, our local legislators.
Alan Bentz, when he was Speaker of the House, the whole thing, everybody.
And we didn't get much results from it. So,
No.
As outdoorsmen and citizens, we just have to be aware of this, and these problems can be solved. I mean, we pay a lot of tax money in order to be able to take care of that.
Yep. And that would be good money spent because you're protecting this bay, and that is our goose that lays the golden egg out there, really. But politics being what it is, sometimes.
So people can just come out here, they anchor up, and then they can just walk away and leave it.
Just walk away and leave it. And of course, if the boat sinks, the way it works is the county or city, whoever's involved with it, has to get the boat up. Then they apply to the state for reimbursement for that cost. But back when we had so many hurricanes, all the money was gone out of those coffers. And I don't know if it's been put back, today. But that's the way it works. So,
it's not just here in Bay
County.
No,
it's not just here.
The Intercoastal Waterway and some of these other places too. So.
Yep, it is a problem everywhere along the coastlines. And, of course, some places have done things about it. Now, Key West, they've got some ordinances that keep that from happening. And you go up into the northeast, it's not uncommon that, you have to check with the harbor master where you're going to anchor and how you're going to anchor. And I have mixed emotions about that because I like the freedom to go and do, but be responsible.
Okay, folks, there you go. That's some good information right there. We appreciate that video too, Rick, and appreciate you coming on once a month with us. Okay? And folks, we appreciate you watching Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Thank y'all for watching. Do something good for someone today, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.